Hey, so I'm making a quick recording about IL2 settings. So let's just go into the settings. I'm going to actually turn off the music. That way it'll be easier to go in the graphic settings. Okay, so in the graphic settings, the main settings I'm going to show you that affected things for me in VR were shadows, clouds, and the main settings, balanced versus ultra, and then also anti-aliasing. When you have a headset like the Quest 2 or the HV Reverb G2, they are much higher resolution than the previous generation, and it's almost a double resolution jump from the previous generation, because not only are they higher resolution, going up to 2160 pixels per eye or 1920 pixels per eye versus 1600 pixels per eye, but they're also LCD RGB subpixels right in a row, really tightly packed. Whereas the previous gen was like cell phone pentile technology. The pixels aren't RGB subpixels. Each color is a separate size and spread apart in a weird way that they're much more blotchy pixels. These pixels are much more precise and densely packed, as well as higher res. So you're getting a lot for these new headsets for only a little bit of money. It's great. And with that, we obviously have to drive more pixels. So I've lowered my resolution in my headset dramatically. I'm using a 1080 Ti, and I still get 60 frames per second using balanced and shadows high and clouds high. And instead of using MSAA, which really kills my frame rates, I switched it to FXAA and a setting of only 2. The pixels are so densely packed that, I can't even see jaggies along the edge of this. If you can't see the jaggies along the edge of a window or a screen or an artifact, then it's really not an issue you're going to worry about in flight. The biggest places I see it are on those pipes out in the distance out there, the railings. And that's not something, a tube like that is a worst case scenario. You're not really going to see things like that. I don't notice it on the tail of the aircraft there or the edges around the airplane. And that's what we're going to be looking for in flight. And the airplane's edges look great. And so do the instruments and stuff in the cockpit. So with that in mind, just a little bit of post-processing anti-aliasing of FXAA2 is plenty for me as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to run these settings in a second. I'm going to just pause the recording and show you what this looks like in a mission. Mostly because the difference between the two settings I decided on are a trade-off of frames per second versus clouds. So this mission really tests the clouds that I tested with each time. All right, so we're going to go with balanced. We're going to get 60 frames per second approximately. The shadows are set to high. The clouds are set to high. And let me show you that in a sec. All right, so I'm going to pause the recording while it loads the mission so you don't have to deal with that. All right, so I'm all set up here at my mission go point. I'm going to go to the desktop here and set up the benchmark recording so you can see how to do that. We're recording, so I use hardware info 64 to do my benchmarking, and together with MSI Afterburner and the Riva tuner, it gets frames per second here, and it gets your average frames per second as well, and it records it to a log file, which I'll check. Okay, so go ahead and record this. This is actually using balanced. And clouds high, shadows high. Alrighty, so that's recording. This is recording. We're ready for the mission. Going back to the headset. We're in the headset, ready to on pause. See what kind of frame rates we get. So this is mostly about the clouds. That's the difference. We've got it set to balanced mode, high clouds, high shadows. So I'll average about 60 frames per second. Clouds are pretty good. Yeah. settings that I used to use, and I'm going to switch now to the other settings to show you what that looks like. So here I'm back at the settings. I'm going to jump to Ultra. That's the only difference I'm going to make. The clouds are still going to stay high. Shadows are still going to stay high. The clouds are going to look way better. And I'm going to drop from 60 frames per second average to 45 frames per second average. I'm going to go ahead and accept this. And it's going to relaunch. And before we do that, I'm going to exit the game and show you the frame rates from the last section. So, frame rates from the last session. That was the balanced log that we just did. Here's the frames per second. We'll clip off the beginning, go to the end, clip off the end. Look at the average frames per second there. We're averaging 65 frames per second. Okay, that's balance settings with the reverb at 52%. All right. Let's go ahead and relaunch IL2. I'm going to pause the recording and set up the mission again with the ultra settings. All right, back to recording here. I'm going to set it up to relog. So kill this log. And we're going to now do, oops. Apologize. What did I set that to? Okay. This will be 512. And now we're at ultra. Okay, ultra. So we're logging ultra. The recording's going. Switching back to the game. The game is ready. So I'm just going to unpause and test the mission. We'll see what we get. All right, so let's go. Don't fade off in the distance. They permanently on everywhere. All the effects are as high as the effects quality gets. Really, really good. So, I mean, this is that'll do it. Go ahead and kill the logging and check it out. So ultra. Normally I'd run a little bit of a longer mission there, but the mission's always the same, clouds are always the same, so this is what I use to do all the benchmarking. And clip off the beginning portion, clip off the ending, and yeah, I round up, so 0.5, I'll round up to 46. If it was below 0.5, I'd round down. So here we are at 46 frames per second average with clouds and all the goodies in Ultra. So yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.